Aloha my friends.
Abby here, and I'm so happy to be back with another video. Eating like FullyRawKristina. This is today's breakfast. Proper meal of the day. I'm hungry. I made two. I think I need food. The pros and the cons of a diet like this. And even though the vitamin A is around 600% of the RDA, she's likely not getting in enough. Something I've never done before. At least not 100%. It actually brings back some memories. Let's take a seat and talk for a couple of seconds at least. I've done the whole 80-10-10 shabab for almost 2 years. It was 7-ish years ago. And now, coming back with a lot more knowledge than I had before, we are going to do something stupid again. But for the sake of science, there will be a lot of explanations. And actually, one day is not going to do anything. Today's a rest day as well, so I'm cool not making gains today. Also, I picked a day where I thought, okay, this is doable for me. This does not have like a bunch of green juice in it because I don't have a juicer. It has orange juice, but I have hams and I think they will work for that. So, what I'll do right now is I'll go out and pick some fresh citrus fruit from the supermarket, as well as all of the other foods that I would need for lunch and dinner. Can we just talk for a second about the fact that I've just spent almost 15 euros? This is like literally 3 times as much as I usually spend. Especially considering the fact that we already got bananas and lettuce at home, I didn't find the cabbage, I got granola at home, I'm not using her expensive supplements. What the heck? This is today's breakfast. But actually, we are going to make some juice out of these.
32 to 64 ounces of freshly pressed juice is typically my first thing I consume every day.
Have I actually mentioned yet? I am starving. Dare I say, this actually looks good, though I would much rather just eat the whole orange juice instead of doing what I'll do now. The juicing, I kind of feel like having a mental breakdown. The juice of half an orange. There is absolutely no point in juicing your fruits, because that way you're just getting rid of all of the fiber. And fiber is very essential for overall gut health and even disease prevention. However, if she's doing well with this, the thing is she's getting in a bunch of fiber throughout the day. In the grand scheme of things, it could be okay, though if you don't get satiated from fruit juice, now you know why. And especially if you're trying to lose weight, this is definitely not the best thing to do, and a juicer is generally pretty much a waste of your money in most cases. For Christina, because she's doing a bunch of cardio exercise very often before she's having those juices.
After my workouts, I usually tend to refuel with fresh juice or a smoothie bowl.
Quicker nutrient absorption could be a benefit because glycogen stores are refilled quicker. But otherwise, you really have a risk of getting in just way too many calories and too much sugar. This is literally all of the juice that I have, and it's taken so much time. I just need something right now. Better than store-bought, but is it worth spending half an hour plus 5 euros on a meal? Not for me, because I didn't want to make so much waste. Started cutting up some of the oranges. This actually reminded me of the times back in the days where I was listening to people like FullyRawKristina, but also Freely and some other German YouTubers. And I was doing all of this fully raw 80-10-10 style diet because I wanted to lose weight. I actually didn't lose a kilo, but I maintained my weight, which is okay for me at the time. So I remember that I woke up in the morning an hour earlier just to be able to have my breakfast. I spent a whole hour eating all of that food, partially because for things like oranges, it just takes a ton of time to cut them up. A ton of time, and no, it's not a good idea to just have like 2 and then call that your breakfast, because it's like 100 calories. I mean, is it a good idea to have a bunch of oranges like this portion for breakfast? Also no, we're going to talk about this a bit later. But still, I spent an hour every day to have breakfast. Sometimes I would just bring store-bought orange juice to school, which I guess was sort of better. But still, I had one problem, and I'm already kind of afraid about this. For today, I used to have acid reflux. Usually, after I've had the first 500-ish calories, and I would have to lay down. Took about 10 minutes until it went away, and then I just continued eating because I wasn't full yet. Oranges are good, fruit is good. Not going to complain about the taste here. I don't know how long I'm going to stay full, but there are a couple of complications with diets like this, other than the acid reflux and the time it takes. We're going to talk about all of this just a little bit later. Hey man! This is so annoying. Especially your hands just get so, you're just full of oranges, which is just so annoying because you can't do anything while you eat. Either you eat them like this or you just cut them before and then you eat them with a fork, which I'm going to do, because I think the mess that you're making with foods like this is just horrible. And I just cut like 3 halves of oranges. I'm still not done. Just want to watch some Netflix. Do nothing. Today's really... I didn't have the best day yesterday, and actually the past couple of weeks were just very stressful, so this is the first time within the last month, I think, where I'm really taking just purposefully some time off and yeah, simultaneously filming a video and not eating anything but fruit today. Yeah, great idea. I have to say the juice is good. It's good. There's just no point in... There's just no point in squeezing out all of the fiber. Or not squeezing it out, but leaving it in the trash bin. And I'm happy to be having some breakfast. I think I've spent an hour so far. The time is running, Finally we're done. This is my breakfast. Finally some food. I finished the juice. Maybe you've seen that at a certain point I was just like not really enjoying it anymore. It was good for the first sips, but pretty quickly I was just like, I want something else, and also I'm not full at all. I feel just as hungry as I felt before. So maybe if I was used to drinking juice for my breakfast, I would eventually be enjoying it a bit more. At the same time, there's no point in doing this. This is not better for you because like the nutrition profile is quite limited. Combine it with some other foods like variety, food pyramids, basic knowledge. Even though this breakfast, which I'm not enjoying at all, cost me €5. This is definitely not my kind of breakfast. I have 1 more hour until I can have lunch. It's 11 AM. I've had over 2 kilos of oranges, half of them, almost 3 kilos, almost 3. Half of them in the form of juice, and the rest just whole. And I'm hungry. This cost me €5. The first 1 or 2 were good, and the first couple of sips of the orange juice was also good. But this, as a whole meal, I'll pass. I'm really looking forward to the lunch.
Lunch is usually a yummy smoothie bowl. The smoothie bowl is my banana dragon fruit smoothie bowl topped with raw cacao nibs and my homemade granola.
This is what I'm having for lunch, and I'm really happy that this is a meal that I would actually normally eat as well. In her recipe, which I found on Instagram, which seems to be sort of the thing that she was making in the YouTube video, the recipe asks for 3 to 6 bananas, and just like this morning, I'm actually still starving, so I'm definitely going to go with 6 bananas. Also, in the YouTube video, she was using dragon fruit. I'm not going to buy that frozen stuff, which probably contains mango as the main ingredient and then some dragon fruit. So I bought some figs instead because I feel like this is something that she would eat quite as well. Though I am actually going to add the blueberries into the smoothie bowl as it is written in her Instagram recipe. And then I'd use the figs as a topping. So I do think I'm doing a decent job here. Also I found some spirulina at home, which I've bought about a year ago and I've never used it. It tastes disgusting, but the recipe calls for a teaspoon. I think I can handle it, and otherwise I don't have the super greens, but I do definitely have some protein powder, which I will for sure be using. And this is quite a balanced meal. I mean, 6 bananas is quite a lot, but if you need a lot of calories, then it's fine. Blueberries and a splash of water. I'm using some unsweetened protein powder here because I feel like the fruit makes it sweet enough. Creatine and a teaspoon of spirulina. Finally, I can show you the first proper meal of the day. Let's just try it. This is really making my day much better. And honestly, the granola right here, it's store-bought. It's not a fully raw granola. Of course, homemade would be better. I was too lazy. And I think this pretty much resembles what she would eat, just without the fully raw spiritual shabab, at least with the granola. Everything else is fully raw, also not the protein powder. But roughly, this is pretty much the same nutrient value, etc. Pretty exactly what I currently love having for breakfast. Just I had to wait until 1 PM today, unfortunately, but I think today is saved. I'm going to enjoy this now. I don't think I'll have a problem eating this because I love smoothie bowls. It is 6:30 and I just got hungrier and hungrier throughout the day, unfortunately, and I'm really looking forward to making some dinner. This involves a bunch of nuts and no carbohydrates this time, so I wish the diet would have been a bit more balanced throughout the day and not just like only carbs for breakfast and then only fat for dinner, because that doesn't really make much sense. Much better if I had some carbs for dinner as well and some fat for breakfast and lunch. Well, here we are. At least we got some calories.
Tonight's dinner salad, and as you can see, I have filled this bowl up with all different types of mixed greens from my garden, a lot of kale, and I've also added in some shredded purple cabbage, purple radish, carrots, green onion. I've got 2 different kinds of fermented toppings right here. I've got a carrot cabbage sauerkraut and also a daikon radish kimchi. And then I also added on some diced hot red peppers on top as well, and some cinnamon basil flowers. And for tonight's creamy dressing, I made a sun-dried tomato sauce that has cashews, sun-dried tomato, lemon, garlic, nutritional yeast, and a little bit of pink salt and water. For the last meal of the day, I'll start by making the salad dressing. I've soaked about 200 grams of cashews here and some dried tomatoes just for my blender because I don't think it can handle raw cashews and dried things. I just don't know the amount, so I will eyeball them. And this should be around 3 portions. I've checked her Instagram how many nuts she puts in 1 portion
typically of salad dressing, so it should be around 75 grams of nuts per portion. That's around a third of this. This is my theoretical lemon juice. I only had apple vinegar. Using iodized salt, because I'm from Germany and iodine is important here. This is half a teaspoon for 3 portions, so I think I'll add in an entire teaspoon, simply because I haven't had any salt today. So there's a third of a teaspoon in 1 portion. I also don't know at all how much nutritional yeast she's using, so I think 2 tablespoons per portion makes sense. And I'm quite sure she uses raw garlic, but I only have the powder here, so this is all we have left. Besides this salad dressing, which definitely didn't get as creamy as hers because of my blender, all of this is going to be my dinner, and there's some insects on the lettuce. I think I'm going to have half of this, half of the sauerkraut and of the kimchi. Unfortunately, I did not find kale, so I'll use a bit more of the red cabbage. I also did not find daikon, radish, kimchi, whatever that may be, or carrot sauerkraut, so I used regular sauerkraut. You may have thought that I made 2 portions here for 2 people, right? But I think Kristina's portion sizes are a bit bigger than this one. Just to be safe, because I'm hungry, I made 2 for just myself. I mean, otherwise this can go into the fridge, so no problem. Actually, when I saw the salad on her video, I wasn't so happy about it. Now that I see it here, now that I smell the kimchi, which I've actually never tried, up until now it looks much better. Also, not putting on any chili flakes because the kimchi is quite spicy and I actually don't like spicy foods. I said half of the salad dressing, so this is going to be somewhere here. Yeah, my dressing really doesn't look as good as hers. You need a powerful blender for this. The dressing tastes good, it just looks very, very, very weird. This was a bit too much dressing, but I need food, I need energy. And I'm really happy to be watching some Netflix now while I'll eat this. It is almost precisely 1 week later, and of course the question arises, have I eaten all of the salads? Almost. I've eaten the larger bowl. Have I also eaten 2 bread rolls with peanut butter and jam afterwards? Yes. Have I eaten too little calories on that day? Definitely yes. Do I think that eating a fully raw vegan diet is a bad idea? Also, yes. Now let's start with a quick nutrition breakdown. I've typed in all of the foods that Kristina was eating in her full day of eating. Mind you, I do not know the specific amount, but I do think that my guesses are pretty good because I did look into quite a lot of her recipe videos, which do have a specific amount of the foods. As you can see here, this is about 2,200 calories, which for most people is roughly a good number. For me personally, it's not enough, and of course I could have eaten more. However, would I fancy having more than 3 kilos of oranges or over 6 bananas in my smoothie? Not so much. I could not see any of those foods anymore. But before we go into the pros and cons of the diet, let's just do a quick analysis of what we have on the screen here. A lot of nutrients are in the green area, so she's getting a good amount of those in theory. Some are in the red, theoretically dangerous area, and some are in the grey area, where she's not meeting the RDA. Vitamin E is very low, just as well as selenium. For vitamin E, 1 or 2 handful of almonds could do the trick, and for selenium, just a few Brazil nuts could be sufficient. And because this is just 1 day out of many, I think this profile generally looks okay. However, there are a few things that we're going to talk over in a second. Let's finally get to the most important part, the pros and the cons of a raw vegan diet. Let's start with the positive aspects, because I do think there is a decent amount of things we can actually learn from her. Number one, most people are not getting in enough fresh fruits and vegetables. Those are crucial for getting in enough vitamins and minerals, and especially the phytochemicals, which are not essential, play a huge role though in preventing diseases. Vitamin C, which she's having 3 times per day, is important for a well-functioning immune system. And it is actually a good idea to have vitamin C about 2 to 3 times per day. Also, one thing that she's doing very well is the focus on whole foods. For example, having nut butters in your salad dressing instead of oils is something I still do to this day. And as you can see in this comparison of olive oil versus whole olives, you're just getting in many more nutrients if you have the whole food. Also, on a whole food diet, particularly on a raw food diet, the calorie density is much lower, and most people are getting in too many calories. So this can also be very helpful for weight loss. However, if you're not trying to lose weight, then this might actually be a negative. Her diet is also very low in saturated fat, though the cacao nibs do actually add a significant amount. The overall day is still very low in saturated fat, which is very great because saturated fat is strongly linked to heart disease and cancer. Also, something that's good to mention is that health is not just about your diet. She's exercising a lot. I don't think that she drinks much alcohol. Her water intake is likely very good. Those are all very important factors. Now, I've already said I don't recommend a diet like this. So here are the negative factors. As you saw in this video, there was almost only 3 food groups, in particular fruits, vegetables and nuts. Leaving out all of the other food groups that you could theoretically have on a vegan diet and would likely be beneficial on a vegan diet too, makes it just so much harder to get in all necessary nutrients. In particular, you can see that the omega-3 is rather low. She's only getting in sources of ALA and not EPA or DHA. And our body has to convert the ALA into EPA and DHA, which happens at a very ineffective rate. So I'm really hoping that she takes an omega-3 supplement. You can also see that the vitamin A is at over 600% of her daily requirements. And even though the vitamin A is around 600% of the RDA, she's likely not getting in enough. And that is because the absorption of some vitamins and minerals is just much worse when food is raw. This is in particular the case with vitamin A, as this study shows the vitamin A that's found in raw foods is in the form of beta-carotene. And your body has to convert that beta-carotene into retinol to get the right form of vitamin A. For that conversion though, you need 12 times as much beta-carotene as you would need retinol. This conversion is much better if you cook foods like carrots, but with raw foods you actually need to get in 12 times as much vitamin A. And those requirements she's not meeting. Also, I've mentioned a couple of times throughout the day that I was just not satiated. And one of the reasons is that a proper meal should have a balance of carbs, fat and protein. Her breakfast was almost only carbohydrates, not even any fiber in there. The lunch was quite great, balanced. I love this meal. This is generally something I would recommend. But then we get to the dinner and that all of a sudden only has fats and a little bit of protein. Also a negative, by the way, is the price, of course. I think there have been a couple of people who made price calculations on the foods, so I'm not going to do that here. But just to sum it up, this is ridiculously expensive. Also, with very restrictive diets like this, I'm always thinking about mental health. I'm not a psychologist, I can't look into her brain, so I'm not going to talk about her here. I've done something very similar for 2 years, and I was not in the best mental state. It's really hard in social situations, and also there's just such a huge variety of foods that you might enjoy eating, but you just can't have on a raw food diet. So, in conclusion, do I recommend a diet like this? No. There are some very positive things that we can take away from this, but please have a proper meal for breakfast. Maybe have the smoothie bowl if you fancy it, because this is really a truly balanced meal. And for dinner, I would definitely recommend to add a protein source like tofu and some carbohydrates, like for example some whole grain bread on the side. And this is already it for the video. Thank you a lot for watching. Leave a like, leave a follow, leave a comment, have some fruit, have some tofu, and goodbye.